Hello everyone. Sadly, this video won't have any footage in it, but it is a review of sorts. Now, as I have made previously, I was once a PlayStation fan back in the day, for 10 years in fact, during the glory days of the PS2. But yes, I did have a PS1 original and a PS1, the mini one. So my experience with PlayStation has gone all over the place. But I won't lie to you and I will be completely transparent. If not for the fact that I have a YouTube channel, I wouldn't have a PS4, let alone have my recently acquired PlayStation 5. Out of one thing, when my mom mysteriously managed to get a hold of one of these weird looking white obulus things, there was only one game on my mind when I picked it up. That being Ratchet and Clank Ripped Apart. My history with the Ratchet and Clank series goes pretty dang far. I played the first 4 on the original PS2 and played the 2017 video game Reboot, which I did do a review of. An 8 out of 10 actually. It's on this channel after all. But I missed out on a lot. So, unlike most people that have done Ratchet and Clank reviews, see The Golden Vault among others, my experience with Ratchet and Clank is spotty at best. I don't have that series burnout that some do in this area. So, Ripped Apart was my reintroduction into the series yet again. And, of course, with it being the first game we ever saw that was a PlayStation 5 exclusive game, the pressure's been high ever since. And doesn't live up. Short answer for the too long didn't read on the internet: no. Is it a good game? Yes. Is it a good Ratchet game? Well, that quantifies on what you would consider a good Ratchet game. But throughout my experience with Ripped Apart, one word kept appearing through it all. What was the word? Underwhelming. Everything felt lesser. And I'm not even saying lesser than the PS2 games, because that's an unfair comparison. When I say lesser, I mean lesser as a console exclusive, and lesser as a Ratchet and Clank game if you compare it directly to 2017's movie Reboot. Well then, how is it lesser? Well, considering Insomniac's last game is the second greatest superhero game ever made in Spider-Man, the bar was already set super high going into it. But that's a completely different genre in a completely different way, so no direct comparisons there. But as compared to the heights that the Ratchet series has met in totality, this is definitely underwhelming. The one thing that it does do well is the one thing that Insomniac has always done well: story by way of character. And practically they're Sony's masters of the craft. Sorry, Naughty Dog's got a thumb up its own ass, and all the other studios just make glorified movies with shallow stories anyway. Insomniac is the only true storytellers that Sony has. This is not arguable, this is a fact. Especially if you have any experience in writing yourself. They most certainly do. And Rift Apart delivers in the writing department, at least when it comes to a story. Picking up right after it into the Nexus, the last PS4 Ratchet, the Dimensionator, the main hook of this and the last game, has been rebuilt. Ratchet wants to go find the Wombats, his long extinct race, and figure out where they went. Clank rebuilt the Dimensionator for that purpose, and during a celebration of the duo's heroics, Clank wanted to present the weapon to his best friend and begin the search. But wouldn't you know it, coming right off that asteroid after so long ago, Dr. Nefarious shows up again and steals the Dimensionator. Thus begins one of this day's modern cliches, multiverse breakdown plot. It's funny, even before the MCU started doing multiverse work, this game was already in production and essentially came out before the Multiverse of Madness hit. But it's essentially that. But the multiverses act as a big excuse to show off Sony's loading tech, which is the only technically positive thing to highlight in this review. Yes, the graphics are gorgeous, but it's an Insomniac game. That's what they do on the average. Give them new tech, they'll make that tech sing. It's nothing worth reporting about. But the loading times are truly impressively fast and non-existent. But if you were to tell me that this game is only possible on a PlayStation 5, I'd laugh you out of the gym. Why? Because technically outside of those loading times, practically at times the game moves so fast that it can't keep up with itself. The camera, even at the highest speed it can go, often gets trapped behind you or stuck in the walls. Geometry can literally be glided through and double jumped. The hover boots sometimes go so fast you won't be able to recognize jumps if you're not quick enough. Sure, there's no penalty of death here, thank God, but imagine if there were. You'd be redoing entire sections all on its lonesome. Things that the PS5 should do without a sweat. The PS5 is literally sweating. And yes, even its quieter fans end up blowing like a jet in the wind, even so. I don't know if I have one of the older model PS5s, one of the newer model PS5s yet, but for my PS5, it was blowing like a jet throughout its run. Yes, voice acting is fantastic, mainly powered by Jennifer Hale, Commander Shepard herself, playing Rivet, our extra-dimensional wombats, and the other half of our dimensional new pair of Rivet and Kit. they have most of the levels in this game. They are in a game of 16 levels in total. They are in 13 of them. How many levels are the titular name on the box together? Only 3. 2 if you don't count Metropolis's tutorial at the beginning. This is essentially their game. Luckily, they're likable, enjoyable, and rootable characters. So, at least you're not having a bad time with the gender swap bait and switch. It's actually one of the fewer times where this whole technique in modern entertainment has actually worked out. And it's a credit to Insomniac's writers that it actually has. Because God forbid if they weren't, and God forbid if this was a Naughty Dog game, it'd be insufferable. But that's where the positivities end. Because everything else is a negative by way of 1,000 cuts. How are the levels? Impressive to look at, but way too big. These levels can often take up to 30 minutes to an hour or more, depending on your level of deaths that you'll take. Keep in mind, I played this game on normal. Usually, when I do a review of a game, I play it on the easiest difficulty just to make sure I get through the experience of a game. But, considering that I am a Ratchet veteran, I wanted to play it on a standard Ratchet difficulty to make sure my experience matched the experience of all the other Ratchets that I have played in the past. Playing it on normal, though, may have been my greatest mistake. Why? Because it highlights how underwhelming everything is. Enemies in this game are spongy, and your ammo is sparse. From a developer standpoint, this is to encourage weapon switching. Somewhat of a problem in the earlier Ratchet and Clank games. But in this one, it definitely hurts. Combined with the return of the Raritanium upgrade system from the movie games. Throughout the stages and through beating entire sections, you'll gain Raritanium, used to upgrade things like your total ammo count, range, and the power of your weapons. This is completely separate from the weapon and life XP system that has become the heart of the Ratchet series from the PS2 games from Going Commando on up. What this leads into is you'll run out of ammo for your favorite or most upgraded weapons of choice and have to switch to a weapon that is vastly underpowered to keep you alive. Yes, you have a dodge mechanic using the circle button, but it's pretty easy just to get out of the way of bullets with regular movement. Or if you have auto hyperjets on through the vast accessibility options, another plus. You can turn those on automatically through hold of the button, and pretty much your hoverboot dash can help you avoid enemy contact in general because your dash speed is faster than the bullets can fly. But here's the negative. You can't shoot while doing this. So you're trading absolutely perfect defense for underwhelming offense. Near the end of the game, however, you'll be switching frantically towards your level 5 max raritanium weapons just to do the damage necessary to get through and beat the bosses. That is, of course, if you're playing on normal difficulty. I'm sure on easy, the problem is flipped completely on its head. Enemies are probably much more easier to kill with much more ammo being in your ammo counts. But even on normal, the game makes a fatal flaw. When you die, your ammo count for all of your weapons, except for in certain situations, mainly boss fights, your ammo is completely restored, making the penalty of death almost null and void completely. And it takes out any level of challenge. The story emotionally might be good, but for Ratchet veterans, they're used to biting and somewhat hysterical and satirical comedy. Something that this game, again, lacks. It takes itself way too seriously at times, and the comedy here, when it does hit, doesn't really land that well, outside of maybe 5 jokes in the entire game. And yes, the Clank sections are better. They're very cleverly designed yet easy puzzles that are skippable, and there's even these little combat sections with a miniature confidence building robot named Glitch that are fun, but I didn't even see Glitch's storyline all the way through by the time I hit the credits. I was actually one stage short in that division. And yes, the title Rift Apart does play a role in the fact of these interdimensional rifts that you can use to avoid attacks, get around different spots of an area, or access challenges for armor pieces. Now, granted, these armor pieces can lessen the damage taken, but these miniature obstacle courses of sorts are some of the more difficult parts of the game and are completely optional. And unless you're out looking for them, you'll probably miss them. There are sub-goals, but none of them really help you in any sort of way outside of giving you more time to kill within the game and more things to shoot. Bolts come relatively easily, and barring how well you do, you could probably unlock every weapon in the game on your first playthrough, especially if you're trying to do everything. So this is essentially a one playthrough game that you can probably find now for $40, but Sony tried to sell this at $70. Combined with how underwhelming the weapons are, damage spongy the enemies are, how there's a lack of any true challenge in the game, outside of ones that you set yourself or playing on the hardest difficulty, it just feels lesser. Even weapon upgrades don't have that typical upgrade punch when they change names or designs. They just feel slightly more powerful than they were before. And in the end, weapon upgrades only serve act as a block in the raritanium system, in which you'll have to fully upgrade the weapon in order to fully raritanium the weapon. Something that was true in the movie game, but at least the weapons there had style and punch. Most of the weapons here, like the trophy sprinkler, the glove of doom, and others, are more for utility purposes, or to try to, but unfortunately fail, at crowd control. The only real weapons that I can say I liked were the Enforcer shotgun and the lightning rod. Outside of that, most weapons end up forgettable outside of their first couple of uses. But because of their low ammo counts, you'll have to get familiar almost with every single one of them to get through to the end. And even then, if you play the game pretty much in a straight shot, you'll level up only at max about 5 or 6 of them. Meaning you'll have 5 or 6 go-to weapons in your roster of 20 or so. And those 5 weapons will be the difference between you beating the game and you not. But in the end, because death has no penalty, it's a matter of attrition, not challenge. You are already given more than enough tools to blow through the game with little to no stress, which is a positive, but Ratchet in the past has been known for its challenge, and Ripped Apart just doesn't have it. As the first signature game of the PS5 era, this game totally underwhelms. Although it's still good, it doesn't hold a candle to its recent predecessor, let alone its long 20-year history of much greater genre-defining games. It's still a good game, and I would still recommend it, especially if you just now managed to procure yourself a PlayStation 5. It's the one game on PS5 right now as an exclusive that I would recommend, full stop. Demon's Souls is for those Souls players out there, and Gran Turismo is only for those that haven't experienced the glory of Forza yet, or refuse to. Outside of that, Ratchet and Clank is pretty much the best you have. And it achieves that. Barely. Hopefully the next Ratchet and Clank game can get back almost to the roots of the series and bring back its comedic charm. And also give the weapons back their punch. That's what really hurt this game for me. And that's why, after taking nearly 20 hours to get the job done, I give Ratchet and Clank Ripped Apart a 7 out of 10. This is not even better than the Ratchet movie game from a few years back, but it still delivers great character, great graphics, and an overall acceptable amount of challenge, although there is no penalty of death. For best enjoyment, play the game on the easiest difficulty. You'll manage to get through the then spongy enemies at a much quicker pace. Only challenge yourself on the tougher difficulty in Ratchet & Clank's challenge mode. But for a first time through, play it on these difficulty and have no shame about it. You'll probably have tons of fun. Rivet and Kit do make an impact, and it's a largely stress-free affair. For more reviews like this one, especially those with footage, get subbed and ring the bell here at Code Equestria for more reviews like this for video games, movies, and other entertainment properties, and of course, My Little Pony content. You can see one of those My Little Pony reviews if you're interested through the end card notifications that will pop up momentarily. So, what's next? Well, what's next? I'm having fun playing right now. And I'll definitely have footage of that one. And another MLP review for the comic debut of Gen 5. Yes, I read it, and I have thoughts on it. And you'll see that next week sometime with the return of pony panels. Until then, I'm Nirvana Sparkle. Find peace in your own Nirvana. I'll see you next week.